So aim down sight is definitely coming along here. So on the right, you can see our procedural animation, as well as the crosshair showing up when we're aim down sight and toggling properly. And on the left, you can see the character transitioning from the default animation to the aim down sight animation. So that's all replicating across the network, and we're looking pretty good here. So let's go over how I was able to achieve that result and the work left I have to do. But before aim down sight, we had a few things to get to in terms of the other states. So as you can see here, we have our animations for the upper body stand, so forward, left, and right, and they're all looking pretty good. And that brings us to the actual stand functionality. So I had to hook up the input and our movement functions and get the speed and direction to our blend space, and that provided this result you're seeing here. And that brings us to the crouch state, and as you can see here, we have some eerily familiar animations. They're just a little bit slowed down and a little bit less movement than the stand counterparts. But yeah, they're looking pretty good. And that brings us to the crouch functionality, which is a bit more complicated than stand because we're actually changing our movement state. So I had to build out the custom character movement component, and although the flag for crouch is already in there, it still required quite a bit of work to get this going, but it's looking pretty good. I then spent some time moving my replicated variables to the character instead of all my components that I've created. This just makes replication a lot cleaner, and it also saves some bandwidth over the network, because now I don't need to replicate the components, only the character itself, so that is a very solid result that I'm happy with. And now we get to the actual aim down sight portion of the work that I did, and here you can see that little idle aim down sight animation for the third person character. And here we have a task for the aim down sight movement state replication across the network. So to do that, I had to replicate that flag in the character movement component and build out quite a bit of functionality because aim down sight isn't a default flag like crouch is. So we'll use one of our custom ones for this, and the state and movement speed are both changing across the network. We then have a task for the aim down sight input canceling and the input itself. So as you can see, we can start our aim down sight and stop it relatively easily. And then also when we're fully aim down sight, pressing weapon swap will lower our aim down sight state and swap the weapon. I want weapon swap to cancel all our animations here, and this is the first one, so I had to set up all that functionality. We then have the camera transition, which admittedly is a bit of a misnomer because the camera isn't moving here. What's happening is the first person arms are moving up to the camera such that a view target that I defined for each scope will be exactly where the camera is, giving us this smooth aim down sight animation. We then had to set up our character widget manager that will handle updating the state of our widgets. So as you can see, when we are at the hip, we have our center dot, and when we're transitioning to aim down sight, we have nothing. And then when we are fully aim down sight, we have that little crosshair. So the widget manager is handling all that, and this task was to set that up. We then have a task to come up with a better way to line up the view target, and unfortunately the best method I found here was the guess and check method. So as you can see there, our first result didn't look very good, but now it's lining up perfectly well. And as always, you guys know I'm going to take credit for the devlog, so that brings us to a total of 33 points, and I'd say it was a pretty solid sprint, but I can definitely do better. But with all that being said, I'm going to give myself a solid B for this sprint. So I was definitely a little better than last time, but I want to see a more significant improvement so I can really start making a ton of tangible progress on this game. But definitely subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up with my game's development, and I'd really appreciate it if you left a like and a comment, because it really helps YouTube push my videos to more people, and it gets more people involved in the community, which is great to see. So with all that being said, thank you so much as always for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.